What's up, guys? Welcome to the Creaky Chair podcast. It's off the cuff, so to be honest, a little bit of a sim racing discussion here between some pretty cool panelists, I feel, and I'm hoping to have some good sim racing talk. So, without further ado, just going to introduce everybody quickly. If you guys could take it in turns, starting with you, Bruno, just a little introduction to yourself, what you do, what you do in sim racing, where we can find you on social media if you've got anything.
So I'm Bruno, passionate sim racer representing White River Gaming. I also am involved with RaceFace, and just love the sim world and doing something different with this podcast. But it's gonna be super fun, and I'm looking forward to talking and sharing some experiences with everybody.
Sweet, yeah. Bruno, I joke about the social medias. You can't really find
Yeah,
Bruno on social media, so he's known as hashtag Bruno no
no Twitter,
Twitter
Bruno.
on
There we
yeah.
go.
Bruno no Twitter on my hashtags when I have to tag him in things. So that's where you find Bruno. Then let's go over to Bertus Hugo. Bertus, give us a little introduction.
Hello, everyone, and my name is Bertus Hugo in the English pronunciation. You can find me at Bertus Hugo on Twitter. Not that I'm too active on there, but I try to keep up to date. I'm the owner of RaceFace, and not a very good sim racer, so I'll leave that to the other guys. But I try my hand at it every now and then. That's me.
Thanks, Bertus. And then let's head over to Jordan. Jordan, you can do the same.
Sure. I'm Jordan Sherrett. I love sim racing regardless. So anything I do, whether it's real world to sim racing, I just love it. And that's me pretty much.
So short and sweet to the point. A little bit of an interesting panel. I feel we've also got a little guest joining us tonight. We did a racing broadcast this evening, the GT4 side. So Ryan was here with us. So Ryan Gill from the UK. Ryan, how you doing, mate?
Doing good, thank you, George. Wasn't expecting to be here tonight, but of course, you guys are just so welcoming here that I've decided to stick around and enjoy the talk that's going to go on here.
Yeah, I think the whole point of it is to just have a bit of an open discussion on some things, share some stories, some experiences in sim racing. I think one of the cooler topics, I think, amongst all of us here is obviously Jordan winning that experience to go over to Italy with Lamborghini and go and get a Lamborghini experience. I think, Jordan, we want to hear a little bit about that, and take us through like how it started. What you had to do to get there. I think that's also quite critical because it was something that I wasn't quite aware of myself from the very beginning until you started sharing more info with me. So yeah, just give us a rundown of what that whole thing entailed, where you started and where it ended up.
Yeah, so basically, long story short, I've only been sim racing properly for the last 5-6 months, and my one friend actually shared it with me on Discord, and he said, "Hey, why don't you try this out?" And so, long story short, I believe Lamborghini partnered with the ACC, and on the special events tab, there was like a hot lap competition. I saw it, but didn't really know what it was or what it could what could come of it. And so from there, I obviously searched and saw, hey, like Lamborghini is having an esports competition, and the prize was to go drive the Hurricane Super Trofeo race car, and obviously have the experience of meeting all the guys from Lamborghini and going through a tour of the factory. Basically, long story short, they had like 5 qualifying rounds where the top 2 and top 3 would qualify depending on which track you were driving on. So in the last round, I managed to win it, which gave me a place in the grand final. And from there, obviously there was 2 finals, or two main finals, and I managed to finish 3rd overall, which gave me the experience to go to Italy. The experience was absolutely great, flying business class, and being treated like a king. I cannot complain. I'm just like so happy. I wish I never had to leave. I mean, it was so much fun. Like I couldn't actually stop smiling after driving the race cars, and just getting back into the real world of racing. It's given me like such a big drive and urge to try and do something with, let's say, the real world, or even just trying to make a career out of sim racing. So yeah.
And it sounded cool from the get go to me. I liked the idea of what they were running, and I thought it was super cool that you obviously qualified and got to go and do that all. You guys here, like, I mean, do you have questions to ask Jordan about it?
So, yeah,
Bruno,
man, from
go.
from my side, I mean, I remember when we were practicing for, I think, the Suzuka 6-hour race, and we had a conversation, myself and Jordan. And one of the things you mentioned in that conversation while we were practicing is you wanted to somehow get back into real life motorsport or get back into a race car. And I'm sure when you reflect now, looking back, because that was a while ago. I think that was about June-ish where we had that conversation, and we're in October now. And you look back on a conversation we had, and all of a sudden you did get that experience now. So, I mean, what does that feel for you? Sort of, kind of, if you look at your goals, you kind of exceeded them, if from my perspective. But for you, I mean, just reflect on that. Having a conversation about, look, you want to get back into a real race car somehow, doing it through sim. Now you're there. How does that feel for you?
I mean, I actually remember that so well, like so much in detail, because obviously we won the 6-hour with the Lamborghini, of course, and with White Rabbit, which was quite cool. And yeah, I mean, like it's surreal still. Like I never ever thought it could happen, and I was just trying and trying and trying to just practice, and practice made it happen. And I was just fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. Certain people telling me things, and just putting in the effort. I think the effort certainly paid off at the end. I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I feel maybe a few more interesting opportunities will come through this. Obviously, meeting the right people always sort of gets you sort of in the right places, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I'm still over the moon, and I'm so happy. Yeah.
I mean that is quite something, from a conversation for you going. But I mean, at the same time, you practiced, you worked hard, and you got there. But let's just talk about the actual drive experience itself. Like, I want to know, you got there, you suited up. I mean, your nerves. Take us through that. I mean, I'm sure they must have briefed you. I'm sure there was rules. Like, break us down on the actual experience to drive the car. I think people want to hear more about that. I mean, because in sim, it's you get on the sim and you go, but now you're in the real situation where you're going to tackle the GT3 Lamborghini. What was the feeling? What went through your head?
I agree with you, Bruno. Like that physical feeling. Like, I want you to describe it to us. Like, we can't see it, and the clunkiness of the gears and the whine of the gearbox. Like, I want to hear just like shifting the car into gear. Like, what it feels like. Like, I've never been able to drive a real life race car or anything of that sort of caliber. So I mean, like, describe it as if I'm 5.
I actually have
a picture.
I actually have an onboard for that, so maybe we could share that later. But yeah, I mean, let's first go to ACC, comparing that to the real world. It's actually so realistic. I'm so impressed with the physics, and just like sort of like how natural it feels going from the sim to the real world. Like, if the car, well, for me, I've obviously had real world experience, so it's more natural for me. But like, in terms of what Jardir felt or the other sim racers felt, they could react so instantly from ACC, just learning how the car is. Like, it's got similar physics, like what you feel, what the car is doing. It's like almost identical. So, but I mean, yeah, like nerves wise, I guess I was nervous because I obviously didn't want to crash or make a fool out of myself. I mean, we did have a safety briefing saying that, okay, we're going to take it slowly. This is an experience. It's not about doing lap times. It's just about, going through the cars and understanding them and just, having fun. I guess that was the main thing. And yeah, so basically when we first got there, we had like a little briefing, like with a little slideshow, obviously showing like because there were a lot of like influencers from YouTube, and one of them is Jardier, of course. There was another like couple French YouTubers and some big like website news places and stuff. So yeah, so then we had that, and then yeah, we first went in the Hurricane road car following the instructor. There was 3 of us following, just slowly showing us what gears to go into, and this was obviously in the road car, of course. And then after 3 or 4 sessions in that, they sort of obviously thought that we were okay to drive the actual race car, and then yeah.
I'm just I'm jealous. Like so like it wasn't just one lap that you did. There was multiple laps and
Yeah, like literally it was so in the road cars, of course, we had like I think it was three about, so we had 5 lap stints of like 3 sessions. I mean, at the track we were at, it's pretty amazing. Like so,
you had Imola,
yeah,
hey?
yeah, yes, 100%.
Ah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Lamborghini fan. Ryan, I mean, is probably disappeared to relieve himself at the story at this stage. Ryan, are you still with us? Like,
I'm just taking it all in.
yeah,
You know,
no,
I'm just taking it all in. It's amazing.
I'm not the biggest Lamborghini fan, but that whole experience just sounds amazing. So to carry on, sorry, I just had to jump in and just say that I was feeling pretty envious. I mean, Imola as a circuit as well, like touch on that, the curbs, the handling, the grip, I'm just excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a legendary circuit. I mean, yeah, what you see in the game is what you see in the real world, just 100 times more clear. You know, the curbs you can ride that. Well, we couldn't ride them too much because of the F1 race, because they were recently painted, so we had to stay off them. But I mean, yeah, like the way the track is, like you actually don't the way you see the track in the game, you don't actually see how up and down the track is. So the last section where you go down and break into the left-hander, that's actually quite a steep like braking zone. It's really tricky in the road car and also in the race car. Like how you have to get the car right before you brake. Like in the race car, the one time I had like a full sort of 100% run with the one instructor. Well, not really, but that section we did, and it was very interesting on the brakes.
So the braking force required now, like going from the road car to the race variant, the Super Trofeo, like
yeah. So
how much more difficult?
Yeah. So obviously the road car is made for obviously natural or driving on the road. So the brakes you don't have to put so much force. They're like quite sensitive. Where the actual race car is like a proper pedal box where you need to put like 70 kgs of force. It's like a hard, solid pedal. You have to like literally hit the thing really hard in the race car to make it stop.
I was gonna say, like, so was it 70 kilos of braking force required?
Yeah, I think I said 60, but it felt a lot more. But yeah, I don't know.
And I mean, that's cool for sim enthusiasts, right? Because if you've got a load cell brake pedal, you can go and set the braking force required. So you could go, in theory now, Jordan said the Super Trofeo set so that you go and load it up in ACC, set your load cell pedal to 60 kgs. That's the braking force you would be using in the real life race car. I mean, I got to experience a simulator with some Heisenfeldts, which I'm probably destroying the name, but those Heisenfeldt pedals. And it was actually TGN Racing Simulators. Vanna invited me over there. I got to test out a direct drive rig with pedals, and I just could not believe how cool it felt to. I think we had a 75 kg setting set on that load cell, and how you have to jump like onto the brakes almost. To stop the car was. I mean that's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely different to obviously a standard sort of pedal set. Load cells really work. I've been using some recently, and it's made a big difference. And just being more consistent and more like onto the sort of like when you brake, you get to the 100% instantly instead of like with a normal set, you obviously have the distance. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
So now, talking about the pedals and everything, I I think explain to us how the real Super Trofeo relates to the in-sim car.
Yeah, so I mean, like the braking it's pretty similar. It will never be 100% because obviously in the real car you have like the forces of like the ABS. You actually feel the ABS through the brake pedal, so you can literally counteract that. Although you have so many settings on the like rim or on the car, obviously the ABS levels and also traction control stuff. Oh, and talking about that, ACC hasn't got it quite right. Where we were using TC6, and literally the car wouldn't even like cut its power. It would just literally drive through any sort of where it gets obviously light with the wheels, and yeah, we didn't even feel any traction like control actually working at that. It felt like it was clean, you know. So I think ACC can improve on that slightly, but
do you think that's also down to maybe? I mean, you said it was a customer experience. I mean, were you able to throw the cars into the corners at that, or are you just saying in terms of like just kind of like trying to kick up the back end a little bit?
So obviously we had a Hurricane road car in front of us, which is about 10 seconds slower than the optimum of the Super Trofeo, and yeah, I mean you couldn't really go for it. I mean the tires weren't 100% hot, so the car was a little loose. Well, it wasn't loose. It's just like when you get to power, it's slightly oversteery because it's more rear wheel drive. Or even though it's four wheel, it's well, is it four wheel? I think it is. Yeah. So it's more to the rear, so you can get it slightly sideways. Well, you know, when you power it, it's sort of you've got 600 horsepower behind you, so you can imagine just flooring it.
Bit of a power slide.
Yeah, I mean, but like through the corners, that car is so planted. I mean, I did slow down slightly to make a gap, and through the first, second corner, and the third, you know, you have the left, the right, and the fast left. Like I had it flat the whole way through, and the car is just so planted. It's actually insane. I mean, I've never driven a GT car. I've been blessed to drive a F4 and sort of other saloon cars, and this was just like another beast. You know, you have a lot of power, a lot of downforce. I mean, good braking power. Although we weren't driving at optimum, sort of our optimum level of what the car can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still so much fun. Like, yo, I wish I never had to leave Italy. Let's say I wish I could do that every single day of the week, and you know, get I don't know, not even paid, just get fed like food, you know, and just to just be at the track, you know, just driving. It's so cool.
4 walls around your roof over your head, some food in your belly, and a Super Trofeo to drive is definitely not the worst way to spend an experience.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Jordan, did you also change your brake balance before every corner like you do on the sim?
No. I actually honestly didn't know where it was on the steering wheel. I didn't really look. They just told us this is the ABS, this is the TC levels, and go. Like I didn't really actually have a look, but maybe if we could actually like do a hot lap, maybe I would have asked. But I think we weren't going that fast, obviously, for that to make a difference. Yeah.
So here's a simple question. I just want to know how many laps did you actually get to do in the GT3 Hurricane Evo?
So we had like I think it was 2 sessions of like 30 minutes each. So it was like basically 50 minutes of actual drive. Well, yeah, with obviously coming to the pits and yeah, about 50 minutes overall. Yeah. I
50
don't know.
minutes in the Evo itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, like that's an experience and a half.
Yeah.
and obviously you're following. Hey, you can't really go full tilt.
Well-
It's sort of like a guided lap of making sure you don't crash. Just keep it on the road, stay safe.
Yeah. I mean,
Pick it up as you went along. Like the first session, slow, a little bit faster, like following. What was it?
yeah, exactly. It also depends on the instructor on what they feel is comfortable for them and if they trust us. I think it's a lot of trust in this, and obviously we don't have like proper racing licenses, so the insurance on the cars is quite more difficult and more expensive. So I guess they just try to keep it safe. You know, the main thing of this whole experience was be safe, have fun, and enjoy the cars. You know, get to experience like how the gears
Take it all in and be able to like. I mean, I guess it's kind of like in ACC, right? If you hot lapping, you're not looking around, but if you're taking a slow casual lap out, on the formation lap, you're kind of noticing little bits and pieces around the cockpit. If I guess that's the point of the experience side of it, and
Yeah.
what a cool thing for them to have done, and I hope that there's more things like that and more opportunities. I mean, I kind of I fall out of the eligibility from a sim racing perspective. I get no time really to spend behind the wheel these days. So, but I like seeing people succeed. For me, that brings me the most joy, and being able to see people go out and do what they want to do is always cool.
So, what about the discussions? Like, you guys got in the car, and obviously adrenaline is pumping, and it's like, this is amazing. I'm in a GT3 car. Then it's someone else's turn. Did you ever speak to Niels or Jardier when they came out of the car? Like, did you guys have discussions on? Did you guys talk to each other when you did your run?
Yeah. There was quite a few discussions. Obviously, we just wanted to obviously find the insights before we get into the car. To see how real it is, like how it compares to the game, or how fast they went, or no, not even how fast they went, but how fast they were able to go. That was obviously the main thing, because obviously we sim racers, so we just want to go fast. Like everything is a competition for us. So we all wanted to go fast, but I think we all had huge smiles on our faces afterwards. I mean, even I remember when I was driving, I had to because obviously we were being recorded, and I actually had to pull up my balaclava because I didn't want them to see my mouth, but I mean, it's actually surreal. Going back to your question before, I would never expected anything like this to come of some anything that I did, to give me an opportunity through sim racing to let me go there. So I mean, it's so crazy. I'm just over the moon pretty much. Yeah.
Like earlier you mentioned insurance and you have to follow, but I would have loved to have seen them to sort of say, okay, you get one lap, put a time, but be safe. And I would love to see the times that you guys set and a little bit of a comparison between one another. I know it's like technically you can't do that, but I think that would have been super interesting for the sim racers to have seen what you have done and what the feedback was, maybe from an engineer, sort of saying, okay, the difference between these guys and that type of information would have been good. I know it's impossible, but I think that would have been interesting.
I'm sure for the next sort of esports thing that they do, things will change. I think they got a lot of huge ideas, so yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I mean, like you say, that it would have been interesting. I mean, we did do a sort of like a time trial thingy where we did like an autocross where we sort of got to compare. I don't know official results, but I sort of know some of them. But that was quite fun. And also we actually got to, so obviously Lamborghini has these junior programs, and some of the drivers that were there were the junior drivers, and we actually got to do a sort of, so he did a hot lap of the track and we were in the passenger, so we got to kind of experience how the car is and where the braking points are only after we obviously drove. So that was quite cool to see. Hey, I can improve here, or maybe he can improve. Obviously this is what going through our head. Obviously, being sim racers, we're always trying to go faster and trying to find the time, and that's the same thing that goes in your head when you're in the real car. So yeah.
But Jordan, you did spend some time in the sim at Lamborghini. Just tell us a bit about that, and
okay. So part of the prize is that we got to try their R&D sim. So this is where they test basically all their future road cars before they go into production, or just trying to find the happy medium of handling to power to downforce to braking to everything about the car. So yeah, it was interesting to obviously drive the sim. The sim is like €1 million, and it's like a proper Lamborghini Hurricane cockpit, like everything inside exactly the same. But obviously they test this same cockpit with their future models, so the cockpit's different, but I guess the handling is sort of always the same or different in the newer versions, but obviously the old cockpit. So yeah, I mean that was so insane, like how real that is to what their road cars are, because this is obviously the road car simulator of what road cars they have in production now. Yeah, that was so interesting to obviously drive and feel how close it is to their real car, So it was an awesome thing to be in, and yeah, they also have a few plans with that, and part of this sim racing is to maybe try help that in terms of developing cars and getting more insights on, like, one thing that they do say is that through the sim they can save a lot of money, so having us sim drivers to do that could help them potentially save money in their production costs of future road cars. So this is where they're sort of going down the line. This is why they obviously got into sim racing or the esports, and just trying to grow the brand, and obviously save money, like I think most businesses do. But yeah.
Some inside info there.
Yeah.
I like the whole Lamborghini experience. I think, like I said, that coming back would be a cool thing for other people to get involved in. So I mean, we can move away from that now, unless Bruno still has. I mean, I think Bruno's more excited. Yeah.
What's going through my head right now is just thinking, okay, Lamborghini came out and said, we'll offer an experience, Lamborghini experience, to a sim racer or a top 3 sim racers in our competition.
Yeah.
What are they, how are they going to change that to we offer our sim racers a test, where it's not 50 minutes, it's a proper 3-hour session where you go and you do laps and you're going for it. No following a car. It's a proper test. Like, what are they going to do? Can they do that where that philosophy changes and it's not an experience? This is serious. If you do well in the test, maybe we consider you for a drive. Like that's what I feel.
I mean, like, have you've obviously followed James Baldwin, right, Bruno?
Of course.
Yeah, he's obviously quite a inspirational story behind experience to getting behind that. But I mean, even that process there, it seems very few and far between where manufacturers seem willing to put somebody just from a sim background. I mean, Baldwin also had real life racing experience before, right? Before his sim racing side as well. He has raced real cars before. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
I actually have no idea, but I'm
think
sure he probably did. Yeah.
I think he has had some sort of racing side, but I mean that's beyond the point. I mean, manufacturers, I think where you're going with the question is, where do they then step it up one notch to have something that is a little bit more competitive for a sim driver to show, like, this is what I've got. And I think it takes, I think Jordan touched on it a tiny bit, that commitment and that insurance level to back something like that in the unknown. A lot of people come up through pedigrees. You never get behind one of those cars without going through intensive training and going through being a part of that manufacturer before. So I think for them to just throw someone in is just too high of a risk. But they would have to take maybe like a nurturing course where it would be an almost like year-long endeavor to see if a sim racer could get up to a level, never having been in a race scenario before. But I think it would take a big amount of time and commitment, which I don't think they have a lot of return on investment from. So if you go and through an event and you do it quick and snappy like this, 3-day experience, you heard the number of people that were there. I think if you've watched the coverage from Jardia as well, you can just see there's a lot of media and people there to create hype around it. I mean, they get their ROI on that kind of event almost immediately, whereas going in and taking a risk with a sim driver who potentially might never ever get to a level where they could race, and you waste all of that production time, that testing time, that seat time with someone that could have come up through another channel and shown promise. And I'm not saying that there's not that potential, but it's a risk that someone would have to take, and it's not a risk of a couple grand here or there. It's millions of euros or whatever currency people are going to convert it into, but it's millions on the table to take that kind of risk. So I'm not sure that we're going to see too much around that. Ryan, you seem like you want to add into that.
James Baldwin, just to touch on him a bit, he did actually race in the British Formula Ford Championship. I think it was 2014 or 15. I can't quite remember. But speaking from experience of going trackside recently, which I understand a few people probably won't like me mentioning because a lot of people have been starved of trackside action around the world this year. But being able to go to Donington Park for the British GT 3 hour, I can honestly say, as a sim racer and as someone who in the last year has put so much work into the community I do work for and a previous community I work for, to have raced, I mean, obviously not done very well, but to have raced against James Baldwin, winner of Fastest Gamer and all that, to go trackside and see him in a car, see this guy he came through a sim racing competition and now he's got a professional contract in GT3 racing. It's a unique feeling, I think, for sim racers, because it's something that you look at and you say it's a dream, and it's a dream that for so many is unattainable and would never happen, and even for some people they probably think it would never have happened. But to see someone who was known primarily as a sim racer go into a real life car, a real life championship, and do well, it's such a unique feeling. And it clearly shows that like you said, there is talent out there, and that talent, by whatever means you can find, that talent should be getting into real life motorsport. And I think James Baldwin is a great example of the, if they wanted to do something like that, where they want to start looking at sim racers and esports a bit more seriously for the potential of a future drive or a contract at any point in time, then I think for people in sim racing, that's such an exciting prospect that it's this thing that we thought of was a dream is now reality.
Yeah, I think from my side, just to sort of tag onto that, I think what James Baldwin did is and what he's currently doing, and anyone who sort of moves from sim racing to the real world, it validates sim racing. It sort of proves that this is not just a game. It's not just guys playing on their PC in their rooms. You need real skills which is transferable to the real world. So there is always that option. But then again, as George also mentioned, it's must be quite a big investment. And I think many of the companies will probably look at sim racers to do sim work for them,
it's that
to
bigger.
be the sim racing driver instead of transferring them to the real world.
I'm always about the bigger picture. I think, is bringing sort of awareness to what is reality and what is potentially not attainable in things. Like, yes, James Baldwin is a great example of things, but I don't think that it should be used as a basis on sim racing or an example of, what is potentially there as a model, because it's one person who's made that work out of, however many people are out there. And yes, he had the opportunity, he won the competition, but to me, it's always more about bringing people back more to a reality and knowing that we are in a niche market. And the fact that sim racing blew up to where it did during lockdown is a blessing in itself. But the harsh reality is that it does get overshadowed by real life motorsport. And when there is real life motorsport, people will, if they are real life motorsport fans, 9 times out of 10 still go and watch a real life race over a sim race. And you can see that by viewership numbers. So I think we have a long way to go. And before we sell the dreams to big sponsors and all these people out there is, still just maintaining a humble nature and know that it's just the start of good things to come. I think there's still more in the potential present that hasn't been fully unwrapped. But to me, Bruno, like just rounding out as to getting more people in like that, I think it's I don't want to sell a fake dream or a fake narrative from my side. My honest opinion is that it's still a far way off of that becoming a reality.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's super interesting what everybody's mentioning, and I just want to add a little bit more. There's sim racers out there listening, and when you say, okay, so what is a sim racer try to achieve? Is it to, let's say, compete for these competitions and win an experience in a sports car? Okay, fine. That's sort of as far as it's gonna go, and maybe you can help develop technology for a car by driving on a sim. That's like the prize at the end of the day. But the passion and what people love is real motorsports, and to get into a real factory drive, that is the dream. But let's break it down. Honestly, can that happen? Don't think so. Maybe it's 1 in a million, but you also got to look at what is sim race, what is sim racing trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to get real life experiences through sim, or are we just trying to have competitions and see who's really good on the sim? And I think people out there
I'm more towards highlighting sim racing for sim racing, not comparing it to real life motorsports. A lot of people like to have the comparison. To me, yes, there's obviously the link to it. It's the basis of it, but they are two completely different things. And esports and gaming are separate things. And I think the esports nature of sim racing is where I have a specific interest in. I love watching guys go fast around in virtual racing cars. I get hyped up by guys doing virtual overtakes that have zero risk to them, but to me, they are those entertaining moments. So I find that sim racing creates more breathtaking moments at times than what you get in most motorsports. A highlights reel from a real life race generally feels like just a little portion of what you get in some of the top tier sim races. So I like finding, to me, sim racing is about growing to a centralized point where people are competing on the same sim against the same people, and highlighting who the best in the world are without like 19 different leagues and, this consumer product level racing competition, or this person's format, or this or that. To me, I want to know who the very best in the world is. And for that purpose, it's about following as many racing leagues as possible and seeing all the drivers that enter those and trying to calibrate and build up a sort of database of people. But yeah, to me, the pictures has never been about real life motorsports. I think if someone offered me a commentary gig on a real life motorsport event, I would take it up at the same excitement levels of doing something in sim racing. It doesn't, I don't know, maybe I'm weird. I maybe fall into that category. I love the sim world.
I think it's a valid point. I don't think, let's be honest, like, I'm never going to be a real life race driver. And where I am in my life at this stage, where many sim racers are, I don't think a real life race drive contract or whatever is something that I'm even interested in. But it's just nice to see that you can switch from sim racing, or if sim racing, like we do sim racing for sim racing. That's that's why we do what we do here. But it is nice to just know that there could be there's a tiny small chance that sim racing could be another avenue into the real thing. So it's 10 years ago, there was that you either have money and spend it weekend after weekend, going through all the ranks, starting with carts and working your way up into the higher tiers of real life racing. Now there is a chance that someone may spot you if you're one of the aliens in our world, and they may offer you a drive or at least a test, or at least
I mean, it's the
whatever,
age it's the age side that goes against the sim racing side. So for it to be a feeder series, it needs to compete with people that start off in the karting divisions, with parents that are wanting to get their kids into motorsport. So where we find ourselves in sim racing is that majority of youngsters, when they're coming through, might compete over on the console side. That's why you see GT Sport events doing so well, is because there's a lot of youngsters that will jump onto a console and race against their buddies there, where it is a good leaderboard system. You can hot lap against people and you can get some good racing. But the majority, the average age of sim racing here is a little bit beyond where you would be beneficial to get into a car from a young age. So if sim racing can penetrate into the younger markets, and I'm not saying we need sim racing in schools, and I'm not selling that esports need to be in schools, sell talks that I've been sold a million times.
No, but it's a good idea. I think
But it does need to start from young, and unfortunately, the barrier to entry into sim racing is expensive gear, and generally expensive hardware. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to afford getting into it from a young age on gear levels, or I guess you can start off very modestly, but it's still more expensive than most esports require you to start off on, with like a basic keyboard and mouse. So I think we kind of need to, if we are going to align a potential for it to be a feeder series, have more youngsters coming in and competing from a young age.
Yeah, can I just say something? So
Yeah.
obviously, I came from the real world, and say I had most things going for me. Lost everything I had. Well, not lost it, but just things happen. And
So can you give us a background into your racing side? Like, I mean, I've wanted to understand your background on the racing side. I mean, I've done some Googling and done a little bit of looking around, but I mean, since we here and we have a open discussion platform, I mean,
sure. So yeah, obviously, I was very fortunate enough to obviously start from young karting at the age of 6. Went through the ranks of South Africa. Managed to win a couple of South African championships in karting, and that fed me into like a world championship karting race, and where I excelled, would I say, and lucky enough to finish third. And they always say when you're in the right spot at the right time, things happen, and I was picked up.
was that the one that happened in Italy?
No, this was in Portugal.
Portugal, sorry.
Yeah. So
I saw some pictures of that.
yeah, so I finished basically third. So this is where like the champions of every country sort of race against each other in like a world final race. And yeah, so I managed to finish third there. And like I said before, like right place, right time. A South African guy was looking for a driver in for the USA, and yeah, I'm a South African, same blood, and I was just so blessed to get this opportunity to go to America and start as like a sort of a factory driver for a karting team, and did well in that, and that fed me into F4, and obviously that was the new season for me, new car, new everything, and I managed to do quite well. But things happen, and things that are out of your control take things away from you, and it's not that it takes away from you. Like things happen for a reason, and it brings you to certain things like sim racing. And yeah, so that's basically a story of my sort of career. And so basically how I started sim racing is my brother. Well, I've always raced like maybe 3-4 years ago. I don't know if I actually used to race with Jason Absmay in sim race SA in Assetto Corsa back in the day. Like
Actually, Jason Abschmier, he's asked us to get it right on the broadcast.
Yeah. So yeah, I used to like once in a while. I'm sure Jason would have actually mentioned it to you, because I used to like come back to South Africa. I had like a little flippin' i3 PC with like a GT 720, I don't know what graphics card, where I'd get like 40 frames on a small PC screen and come have fun in between when I was in America and South Africa. And so yeah, and then this year my brother pulled out my dad made me a rig, and he pulled it out, and it was for the solidarity thing. And ever since then, I was hooked. And yeah, so obviously this whole experience has sort of opened up my eyes to what sim racing can get you, or can give you. Like, obviously, me coming from the real world, not being able to afford it myself, obviously without sponsors, of course, and seeing this and seeing the potential of where this can go. I mean, I think I have sort of different views because I come from the real world and I see it like, as maybe a stepping stone. Although,
But I think you are in a different situation to a lot of people. I think you have the potential to use this to get into a seat, and I honestly believe that from the bottom of my heart that is the way that this will then go for you. Like, that's the way I see this being, and I think if you continue to work the way that you do, it is a different situation. And
yeah.
I think what I said earlier completely reflects my own views on where I find what I like in sim racing. So I
Yeah, of
mean,
course.
every person's at a different stage in their life, and they all get a little bit of something different. And I still want to go back to hearing what Bruno wants to get out of it after we finish with you, Jordan.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, yeah, like you said, I think we all have different. We all different ages, and we all have different aspirations, and things happen, and some things can't be possible. So that's totally understandable. I think we have different ages in sim racing, whether it's myself, 21 years old, or Bertus in his 30s, or same like or
Hey, I'm not in my 30s.
like
Post 30s, he's
yeah,
late post 40s,
but
30s.
like
Bertus, are you granddad 60?
but
I'm going to cut this part out.
No, you're not. You're going to leave it in, and we're going to leave it up to the viewers to guess your age in the chat.
yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, so like for me, like maybe same sort of like James thought, because obviously like racing is expensive, and like talking about different formulas of racing, I went the formula route, and obviously there's GT cars, and GT cars you have more opportunities because in one car there's 3 or 4 drivers on various series, so it's a more of a easier route to get somewhere. It's less harsh on your driver, like on your like sort of results, because like when you're driving for yourself, your last result is who you are as a person. This is what's perceived in the real world. So where you finish your last race is where sort of people judge you. So that's why maybe it's more sort of a easier route to go down the GT racing. But although it's, I would say, maybe a little bit more expensive than starting out at like a lower rank in Formula racing. So, you know, and the problem is these days is that like to be seen, you need money. Like it's almost like going to college where you might be good at graphic design before, you might have studied it all the way until you're like 20, doing it part time, but a company would only trust you once you have that degree. So it's sort of the same thing where in the real world, like you have to like pay your way to get the opportunity to be seen, and so taking that now to sim racing, for argument's sake, if we look at this Lamborghini like competition, I was seen by Lamborghini, I was seen by these people, so I'm really out there, people know my name, so it could be used in that way, so like maybe because I know there was a driver, Camille Franchuk, who was racing in the SRO. He got a test in the FFF GD3 team, and he drove a GD3 car. So, and he actually got it tested properly. Um, but obviously that was a separate team to Lamborghini itself, and I think Lamborghini being new to this, they were just testing the waters and trying to test our abilities. So I don't want to share too much because I do know, but there is talks of these things that obviously Bruno you were asking of, and George, maybe there is some talks of certain things like this happening, but yeah, I'm not sure as yet.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Look, from a spectator point of view, sim racing, it's entertaining, man. It is really, really entertaining. And as a driver, let's call it a sim racer, it's also entertaining, and there's many opportunities to sort of have a sim race. You know, you can do 1,000 races in a year. I could, after this, jump on ACC and have a little race, and it's fun and it's entertaining. I'm having a good time.
Sure.
The real life world is completely different. I mean, your opportunities are limited. You know, you need a budget.
Yeah.
You're gonna have that one race, and you got to make it count. You know, so you can't really compare the two. If you realistically look at the two, it's two completely different worlds. Real life sport has those formulas where you got to work your way up. Sim
Yeah.
race, it's new. There's many games, but I mean, we're sort of taking it to levels where we're getting a little bit of notice. We're getting noticed. We have our communities that are getting viewers, but I think it's just got to be a completely separate thing. And yes, it's nice to mesh the two worlds every now and again with each other. Like I think the Lamborghini experience, fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
I think BMW is doing something. If I'm not, I read this week, maybe they're doing something maybe similar where they offer an experience to see. They have a competition, so to see whoever is going to be the fastest sim racer, and then they offer an experience. I think to mesh the two worlds between each other, I think that's great. But it's two different things. But one thing's for sure: sim racing, you can have way more races. There's a good production value there that's entertaining that people can follow, and because you're having more races, you're going to probably most likely get a little bit more recognition, and you might build up a nice following. Whereas
For
real
sure.
life motorsport, I mean, it's the Spa 24 hour once a year, and okay, it's going to get 10,000 views on YouTube, and it's great, and we all love it. We love the sound of motorsport. But in the sim world, you can literally have 10 Spa 24 hours. You know, there's a lot more of it. And I think that's what's bringing people in is you can do a lot more than what you can in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think I don't know what the RI is on sort of like these sim races and manufacturers getting into it, but I mean, if it becomes to a level where they can get the same return on investment or even better, well, obviously
They don't get a lot of return on
Yeah.
investment on things. I mean, you got to look at where they're getting return on investment from. You know, a lot of it's from selling advertising spots to things, which
Yeah.
are all indirect things. So a lot of the time, you're more appealing to a market that may nurture into something in the future. So like,
Yeah.
even if you get 1,000 viewers on a stream and you get that for 4 hours, you're not making anywhere near what you've spent throwing that event. You know, if you get 100,000 viewers, you might be looking at something, but 100,000
Yeah.
viewers in esports is, you need to be a big entertainer, or a big streamer, or have a big competition, which sim racing hasn't got to. So I think from a ROI point, I think wherever that term can possibly be ditched, it needs to be ditched, because there's not a lot of ROI in terms of making money back from these things for companies. And to them, a lot of the time, it's a tax write-off anyway, so it's it's the nature of business. It's not there to make a profit. A lot of the time, it's funding and growing a community, and that's my ROI feels, because I'm exposed to the term a lot, and I get flooded with people demanding insane viewerships on things for what would be a monetary reward, and I just have to turn it down and just say your aspirations are far beyond what you think you're going to get back out of this. So rather let me put you in the right direction of what this is about. And 9 times out of 10, they don't want to get behind stuff that's not going to give them 10,000 viewers. So like, cool, that's fine. I can't give you 10,000 viewers, and even your own events on your own channel doing something wouldn't get that amount. Even on the official channels, go and look at the stats. They're out there publicly for people to see. The events don't get those numbers.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, if you look at like, for arguments like F1 esports, there's obviously these F1 teams putting money into this competition or into sort of teams, and people, well, drivers are earning up to 0 to 5,000 euros a month, just normal salaries, just driving, esports or just like Sims, So I guess there's that sort of way where, you know, you could actually sort of make money through that way in terms of being a driver on the sim. Maybe it's far less common to obviously have the conversion like James. James is 1 in a million, of course. But it is possible. There is that percentage, you know. So, you know, it's just like I said, be at the right place at the right time, and if the stars are aligned for you, you're destined for greatness, you know. And this is life, you know. You know, who knows what your plan is, and if your plan's that, then you're just so lucky, I guess. It's just, yeah.
Sim racing's kind of, it's changed a lot though in the last 12 months. I mean, because the whole global situation has definitely contributed to that, but it was interesting to me, at least, to see how sim racing started to be taken I won't say completely more seriously, because I've had conversations with people where they've kind of said, well, you know, some companies still treat sim racing as a joke, or, you know, they don't care about it because they don't see any benefit to it. But I was very pleasantly surprised this year to see how far sim racing has come, especially with some proper, you know, real world series like the World Endurance Championship, like Formula E, actually getting proper races up and running for their respective series. I mean, we had a virtual Le Mans this year because they weren't entirely sure if there would be a real Le Mans this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's this year. I mean, to see it grow the way it did, it was unbelievable. You know, to see how the drivers, you know, they weren't doing anything, so let's go into the sim, and they came to explore our world. I mean, that was definitely a time that most of us will not forget. There was so much going on, and no other, how can you say, esport this year kind of went through that growth, I can say.
Oh no, you're 100% right. I mean, it definitely opened up that avenue, and I think the boom was cool. I think it was cool getting drivers in. I think there were moments for me personally where I almost was over a lot of just the hype around just big drivers and events which didn't have good racing. It was just you know, oh, this is not fun to watch really. But then I also just joined the chat and read people enjoying seeing a little bit of carnage between real life drivers. So there were the pros and cons. I think the viewership side is big. I think some of the people came back into the leagues, filtered through, had some bad mentalities, which built up a bit of a dirty driver pool in a lot of leagues for a while. But you know, that all weeds itself out and gets corrected. I think we're in a stage now post like a lockdown phase where, you know, drivers that were interested in doing it are doing it still part-time where they can. Guys that are back into full-time drives are, you know, doing their full-time drives, and sim racers are doing what we did before lockdown even started. And I think, have come out for the better. And if you look at numbers and things, I think across the board, entries are sky high. People are very much interested. There's perma interest and people looking to do something in the sim industry. So it feels like things are in a bit of a boom. I mean, there's, you know, you talked about the BMW thing. Are you talking about the G2 esports event?
That too, and let's also not mention all the wheels got sold out. I mean, you would go onto a website, no wheel, and then Logitech, no wheels available. Thrustmark, they were all sold out just because of this boom that we experienced.
And then it created the money hungry scalpers, the dirty scum that came out and tried to rip people off for wheel prices on things, and you know, whatever. That's on people if you want to make a buck off struggles.
That was something new to the sim racing world, though, wasn't it? Oh, like manufacturers being sold out on wheels and having to take orders, like a backlog of orders.
Well, working from a corporate industry of that started out in a manufacturing industry, and then we now outsource and import a lot of goods. I mean, your predictable trends and things and levels that you're carrying in warehouses always, at a minimum level at best to, always have a good stock turn and make sure that you can sell out. So suddenly this boom happens and distribution gets shut down everywhere. And it's no surprise. I mean, the manufacturing sides couldn't keep up because trends throughout the years have never required so many. So I think the second-hand market has benefited too. I've seen some good bargains out there for those with a good eye. People get into it quickly, lose interest, had money to spend, and decide, this is not for me. So, I always say to people, just, ride it out, wait for people to get uninterested. If something sells out now, it will definitely find its way up in the second-hand market.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like you say, obviously people lose interest. I mean, the thing is people need to be taught on how a car really handles when you go fast. And, when people drive Gran Turismo, for argument's sake, it's more of an arcade of a game. People come to ACC and they're like, why can't I keep this on track? And they don't understand why. And, this is where the interest is lost because they want to get into sim racing. They want to feel the real thing. ACC is probably the most real, and obviously maybe not being around the right people to try and teach them and this and that. I guess that's why they lose interest. Because I mean, if you're a real enthusiast in terms of like racing, like, this is the game to be. So now, obviously, the interest has dropped slightly from the incline that we had. Now, how do we actually try and teach the public and get them to come on board to understand, what a real sim is? How do we actually do that? I mean, that's something that I've been talking to my mom even about to try and see how we can actually grow this thing, because that's the next thing is how do we educate the public on this like industry because it's about to boom. Now, how do you make that go faster? That's what's been going through my mind a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a steady progress. Yeah, for me, it's just about stability and sustainability. If you build a solid foundation for something, it can withhold a lot more than something that's just built up on sticks during a hype. So to me, it's always been about building up solid relationships, and I think people that stick around for the long haul have good interests at heart. The fly by nights come in, they go. A lot of the time it burns up sponsors and sponsor relationships, which is always sad. But, it's not like one bridge from, a failed event or something that overpromised ruins things entirely because there's permanent opportunities. And you have to always be out there and permanently seeking them. I think, as a sim driver, I think everyone in the community has a different role to play. I think drivers themselves could do a little bit more in terms of how they promote the streams. If they each built up, I'm not saying social media is the way to go. I think that's not always a recommendation for people, but a lot of the time people do have social media platforms or profiles somewhere, but don't post about their sim racing side. They'll post about the dog or the ice cream parlor or whatever and get 1 million likes and shares, but a lot of the time, just going out and being a sim driver and sharing that thing on your Facebook page or leaving a like and doing those small things, that's a contribution. I think the people that are out, the tournament organizers, have a different responsibility entirely to drivers. I think for them, it's about maintaining solid relationships again. I maintain honesty and being open with letting people understand where expectations need to be. And that's a responsibility on all tournament organizers and people that have impact in making deals with selling things. So I think the question about growing it just comes down to everyone has a part to play, and it's no one person has the solution to it. I mean, there's no one magic snap of the wrist, big brain idea that's going to just create something that's amazing. It's when the right time comes and the opportunity's there, that's when the magic happens, and you just got to be in the right place to catch that when it drifts your way.
Yeah, I think I have to just tag onto that in terms of growing the sport and growing. I mean, I think that's one of those discussions that a lot of who are quite involved, it's in the back of our minds all the time. Like, how do we grow this? How do we get more people in? And I think we were given quite a big push in, during the lockdown. And yes, there is a bit of a drop off. I think many of us expected. But I must say, from what I've seen so far on our side, I think there's been way more growth than people dropping off, even with many people going back to work and, going back to the office and normal racing returning and all those things. I think we've seen way more people getting into it and sticking with it, and even if they, so it's about, for me, it's about keeping those people, giving them something to look forward to every week, giving them a place where they can practice their hobby, and, because it's become a hobby for many people now. So giving them the opportunity to become part of that community thing. And I think the community thing is where, where it's sort of, if sim racing is just about, hard clapping around the track and racing against AI, then I can imagine why many people would drop off. But if you become part of a community and you get to know new people, and you become friends with them, and it's like, hey, are you going to join us this week? Or hey, what's your lap times looking like this week? And those things. I mean, that's not even talking about sponsors and that will come. If we I always believe in organic growth over just trying to push it, as much as we can. Obviously, we do what we can to grow it, but if you have people organically joining the community, getting involved, and those are the guys who will stay with us, and then at the end of the day, the sponsors will come, the opportunities will come, and hopefully it grows to a point where people would rather be sim racers than real racers. We're talking about it as if the dream is always to go into real life racing, but maybe at some point we get to a stage where people prefer to be professional sim racers instead. They can do it from home. It's much safer. They can be with their families. That's also, as for someone as old as me, that looks like a more enticing dream.
I wanna bring two things up. Let's just go back. This year we experienced that huge boom with the virtual Lamar. I mean, what a great event that was. They pulled it off. They had all the drivers driving in sims all over the world, and everyone was watching. Everyone watched that virtual Lamar race. Okay, now I'm just putting it out there, but I'm thinking, like, if you want the boom to come back, point number one, okay, real racing, it's the golden era. I mean, I feel time is almost up. Why? Because the world is changing. The world is changing. Petrol's saying goodbye. We're going to go electric, and most cars are going to be automated. All right. So to answer that question, how do we bring the world back when motor racing, it's looking bleak? Let's be realistic. Look at Formula One. A lot of manufacturers aren't there anymore. Every time you read Honda pulling out, Mercedes, are they pulling out? Aren't they pulling out? They have to go electric. Motorsport's going to change. Now, let's hypothetically say, okay, motorsports.
I disagree with that. Like, I don't know. It's not.
Let me finish. Okay, so it's my opinion. We can debate it after. But I'm just saying, let's say if it looks bleak for motorsports, the drivers, where would they go? Most likely a sim, because we were starved from real motorsport beginning of the year. They threw the virtual Lamar, and it peaked because everybody was watching this online race. So if we want the peak to come back, somehow, I think the real life motorsport drivers maybe would have to get involved a little bit in the sim. Getting invitation as a guest, maybe promote the events. We've sort of seen a little bit from Sim Grid with David Perel promoting a few things, but maybe they have to come back and sort of promote an event with the sim racers to get that interest where they're sort of saying, okay, what's the sim race that we're doing? We're real life drivers. We participating. We think it's nice.
I I have to interject because like the real life drivers coming back into sim driving to give it a boom is just clout chasing off of their reputation out there. So if they go back to real life driving after that because they feel like it, then they'll leave again. It's not organic growth to use them coming back into events. I mean, we have some like insanely talented sim drivers that against any of those real life drivers would make them look silly in the virtualized environment. So having real life drivers against real life drivers was good racing because they all have the similar caliber coming out. But a real life sim driver there is trumping them in that aspect. So if I'm watching an event as an avid enthusiast of sim racing, I want to see the best in sim racing. I don't give a fuck about real life drivers coming in racing in sims. And that's from a sim loving perspective.
What I'm saying is, let's say we go through another pandemic where we starve from real life motorsports, right? Where are those real life drivers going to come? They're going to come back into sim,
which is fine. They can.
Okay, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. How do we? And that's going to create a boom again, where everybody's like, "Yo, I know sim racing."
But that's on the conspiracy theory that electric cars are going to replace motor vehicles. Which I mean, I think from a consumer level, yes, I think electric cars are going to be a way of the future in a long time, or even in a closer foreseeable future. But I think that motorsport will exist as a niche as it stands and still have, its standpoint in the environment. So.
Everything's automated, though. Everything's automated.
Who says everything's automated?
Can I just check with it? Right. So if you look at the real world drivers, they all have followings, so they've become famous through their racing. Right? And now the issue is that basically, like you said, Bruno, I think if they do come to the sim racing and they do, these followers of theirs come and follow and see that the sim racers are faster than them, maybe the sim racers will get more of a reputation of sort of become more famous, or like all these things. So perhaps, like, going back to you, George, maybe we could actually grow with them coming, which maybe we did at first. But the problem is that with sim racing, for argument's sake, is that we need to create like a platform for us sim racers to have that big following. So, like, for argument's sake, if you take Jimmy Broadband, John, I mean, they aren't the best of sim races, but they're likable. So, how would we create that platform for us sim racers to sort of have crowds now, or
you have to create a fandom for yourself. You need to create something that people want to follow. When you need to understand that a fan base isn't fickle. A fan base follows you through what you do. They don't come in and jump ship to the person that beats you in a race. They go over to that person's channel and smack talk them and their mother, and they bully them through. So fan bases, you have to create a reason for yourself to have a fan base. So even big life Formula One drivers. Yes, there's who is it? Sebastian Vettel has no social media. He's the only one. However, he's highly entertaining in interviews. He has a persona about him that makes him likable by people, and people love him for that because he gets that exposure through that. But if you're not putting yourself out there, you're not taking interviews, you're not jumping at the opportunity, you're never going to build a following. So people, and that's the responsibility. So like people need to build. Yeah.
I want to add to what George is saying. Yeah. Okay. So you build your social media profile, but let's go back, because if you love motorsport, right? What you're gonna do? You're gonna go to a motorsport event. You're gonna get there. You're gonna be entertained. You're gonna see the cars go around. The car's gonna make lots of noise. There's gonna be crashes. There's gonna be good overtakes. You're gonna be entertained for the day. That's what gets people to watch motorsports. Now, motorsport is changing. It's going electric. There's not going to be as many sounds. The sound's going to be gone. That thrill of a Lamborghini V12, whoom, down the straights. Hearing that sound, it's special. You know, it's a golden era. That's going to get taken away. So will the crowds go watch real motorsports? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But now
They
with
will.
well, it's debatable, yeah. You know, I mean,
Bums in seats in motorsports has been decreasing over years for a long time at sports because of coverage from TV circuits and the coverage that you can get from your own house. So I mean, like that argument in itself is that like almost coverage itself has its own ability to murder the sport in terms of having people in crowds going through to events. So it's not necessarily just the sounds of cars or the decline or things going towards hybrid eras. You know, the way that people can consume content now is far easier. They don't necessarily need to go and spend, you know, the cost of what it is to go and support races. You know, it's not a cheap ticket, and it's the coverage side has a big role to play in that. It's not necessarily just. I don't necessarily see. I think hybrid electric technology coming into racing is a good thing. I think it's progress in the way that human nature works. I don't see it destroying motorsports. You know, I don't see everything just becoming a Formula E based series. I don't think Rally, for example, is going to go electric. I don't think you know, you're going to get just all electric rallycross cars. Although, you know, Ford released their Focus electric version that Ken blocked a little stint in on YouTube. That was cool. But like, I don't think there needs to be a necessary bridge between or divide, should I say, between electric and petrol, and I don't think people need to feel threatened by either one. I think there's a space for it there, and I honestly don't see petrol engines just getting replaced all out by electric things. Personally,
I see both sides of the argument, but I think the one thing that sim racing will always have going against it, and to my knowledge right now, there's no way to fix this. It's impossible to fix because it's not something that can be fixed by a digital asset on a screen. Is that the one thing real world motorsport has that sim racing in my eyes will never have is when you're trackside, you feel it. The car goes past you. You feel the weight of the car. You feel the power of the car, the tone, and everything. And you can replicate some of that in sim racing, like you said, Bruno. The sound of a Lamborghini going past, oof, it's amazing and all that. And you can get that sound in sim racing. It's possible, but can you convey to a massive audience the feel of the car, the atmosphere that you have? Like, for example, with Formula One, sometimes, I mean, I've been to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. You know, with everyone there, the moment an overtake happens, the roar of the crowd for whatever home driver is there at the event, you know, or all sorts of stuff that you can't convey in sim racing. Is that sort of stuff I think will always be against sim racing, unless there is a way to do it.
no, I mean, I don't. You're never going to replicate that real life feeling of a car, and I think that's the speciality, like you said. It's a special. Yeah, it's the feeling that you get, and being at a crowd with your friends and spectating real life and screaming and shouting, and there's a whole like you know, social side to the racing at a track circuit. But I mean, gents, I wanna bring your awareness into the fact that we've been chatting almost for an hour and 20 minutes. You know, so I think that we should keep our chats relatively short, that we can get through episodes and have more talking points going forward. How do you guys?
I thought we were doing a 24-hour podcast. What do
you guys are absolutely nuts. We are not doing.
We've only
an
just
hour
done
and
the first
20 minutes.
Well, yeah, we're coming up for a driver swap. I'm sure we can, Bruno. We'll give you. Well, we can sign off and we'll give you the mic and continue recording. You can just go ahead.
Sure.
We need Bruno to do Aris impressions for the viewers.
I mean,
like Ryan and George, like you said, that to get that immersion. I mean, I was just thinking along the lines. I mean, you have VR and stuff, and maybe like as fans with the sim world, is that there would be like these VR headsets that and shakers and
I
fans,
was thinking the same thing.
like maybe it's possible. And with the like what Bruno said, the world is changing. Racing is expensive. What makes racing is us people, and with the way the world is going, like Bruno said, it's becoming automated. Jobs are getting less and less with huge big companies. Like everything's getting automated. So us humans, we're not really going to have like, well, I mean, we always have something to do, but I mean, we're going to be earning less and less and less. And racing, I mean, sim racing is cheaper. It's something that we can all afford. So this is why I say maybe it can be possible, but it's going to take a while to get there. But this is where I'm at. I don't know if you guys agree, but
I mean, I think I think it leaves a great discussion point for even our viewers to leave discussions and how they feel about the entire topic. Like, I think there's going to be.
Can I add just something what Jordan said there, right? Just a little line.
Of course you can.
So what I was trying to get to was right now there's motorsport, real motorsport. You know, you go there, you absorb the atmosphere. Like I said, fantastic, entertaining. Take that away. If people want to see motorsport, we're left with sim racing. And let's say motorsport, it's just not feasible, it's too expensive. Manufacturers are saying, no, we're going electric, we don't really want to race because it's automated now. You know, you call your car, it takes you to work. The thing that's gonna bring sim racing in the spot is, let's hypothetically say that happens. But then, what do all the racing drivers do? They will come to sim. They will be in the sim. That's where we'll boom again. But that's
But
if, and a lot of things have to happen. But I'm just saying, it couldn't. We don't know. But that's where the crowds will watch, is a sim race. If Ricardo is on a sim and there's Raikkonen there on a sim, people will come and watch. And yes, you want to see the sim racers who are faster, but that is what the world's, if you want the crowds.
I mean, that's the best way, Bruno. I mean, the fact that those guys would then come into a sim because their real life drives are gone. Those, like, real life motorsport doesn't exist. Only sim racing exists, and then the gamers smash those guys, and then Danny Ricciardo is not Danny Ricciardo anymore because they want to go and watch, the guy that's the best sim racer. So, I think for me, I would also like to see those real life drivers getting into a position where they would have to compete everyone on one platform, like I said, that best in the world in one place and finding out who's the best.
Yeah, theoretically you can get the best of the best. I mean, if everyone has the same equipment, everyone can qualify for the event, you can get the best driver, because if everyone's doing the same thing, the same game, if there's no hacks or cheats or suspicious things going on, you can find the best driver. And in the real world that we have, there's no theoretically the best driver. There's only speculations on who is the best, and that's the thing with sim racing. You can get that, and this is a very cool thing that we have. You can get the best. And, yeah,
and you could get crowds, but the crowds have to then come watch their stars in the sim, or something like that. You could, but the crowds are watching the real 24-hour races.
Bruno, please actually just make a Twitter account so that I can tag you on Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah, I'll come.
Yeah, Bruno no Twitter. That's going to be your handle.
Yeah.
It's taken a podcast to get Bruno on Twitter.
It has taken a podcast. But James, are you in agreement? We sign off our episode for the evening and leave our viewers to leave us some feedback. Firstly, they have to guess Bertus's age. I mean, winner wins a prize in Discord. They'll win a free emote. Bertus will make it in Paint. He's talented, and
I'll outsource it.
there we go. So, and the second thing is obviously just leave us your thoughts on. I'd like to know people's thoughts on where motorsport is going. Definitely in terms of the petrol versus electric debates. I think that's very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of thoughts. I mean, we all have different thoughts and opinions on it. Gents, do you want to all sign out one at a time? Give a thanks. You can tell us where to find you once again on social media. We'll run down the order of the Discord chat if you guys can see it. So Bertus, Bruno, Jordan, Ryan, and then I'll say goodbye at the end.
Yeah, I'll be up first. I just want to say thanks, guys, for this chat and for this first edition of hopefully a few more. Even though this is sort of a once-off. And thanks for Jordan. Thanks to Jordan for sharing his experience with us and giving us more insights and so on. And thanks to all the viewers and listeners and the supporters of RaceFace. We just appreciate everyone's support, all the subscribers, everyone who joined up as racers and fans, and it's very cool to see everyone joining in. Yeah, that's it from me.
Yeah, from my side, I also want to say thanks to you guys putting this together. It was a lot of fun. Jordan, well done again. I think you've done the South African sim racing community really proud. Congrats on that, and I'm sure we can maybe do another one of these in the future. I might get Twitter, but then but don't follow me, please don't. I'm not gonna post anything. I'm just gonna get it. Don't follow me. I don't want followers. I'm not gonna respond. I'll just get it, and then we'll see what happens from there. But guys, it's really been a pleasure. I've had a lot of fun with this, and thanks again for making the time to put this together.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the viewers for watching, and all I can say is Lamborghini has big plans. Drive the car, because there could potentially be a future endeavor for you as a sim racer. Thanks.
Well, I'm going to continue driving the car because it's all I do in ACC anyway. But thank you guys for tuning in. I do have a Twitter that you can follow me on at Ryan Gill. No shame, complete plug. And if Lamborghini want to offer someone an experience, I'll be the first to put my name down. But no, besides that, thank you for having me here tonight, guys. I wasn't expecting to be here, but I've enjoyed listening to everyone's thoughts tonight.
That's been good, guys. My name is George, also known as GMax. You can find me at ZA_GMax on Twitter. You can just search GMax really on the internet. You'll find me there. It's been good. I heard Bertus mentioning this was meant to be a once-off thing. He doesn't understand this is going to become a regular little talking smash session, because I think it's good to get some opinions out and get some feelings on things. So guys, thanks again for joining us, and catch us on the next episode, which is going to happen. And be sure to not follow Bruno No Twitter over on Twitter.
Hashtag White Rabbit Day.